What's going on, you guys? My name is Ty Knotts, and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns, 5 Valentine's Day horror stories. Number 5. I'm a 19-year-old female. When I was 8, right around Valentine's Day, I received one of those small manila envelopes in the mail. It had no return address, but it was sent from another state that I didn't know anyone from. When I opened it, it was simply a folded sheet of computer paper with a copy of Linus from Charlie Brown, holding a heart and a blanket. It appeared to be drawn and colored by hand. On the inside was a short Valentine's Day message with a small personal detail about my life that only someone close to me would know. Naturally, I thought it was probably my grandparents or parents trying to do something nice for me. But every year I received one of these cards around Valentine's Day. Every year it had a picture of Linus, included a detail of my life, and was typed in the same font, coming from the same state. I kept most of these and managed to find a few as I was rummaging through some old worthless junk. So I took a few photos, and that's what you're seeing on screen. When I got older, I finally mentioned these to my grandparents, fully expecting it to be them, but they swore they weren't sending them to me. I honestly believe it because I'd expressed concerns by this point and they weren't the type of people to try to scare me. Neither are my parents, and the only other family I have in the US are my dad's parents, who don't even speak English well, and they've never even owned a computer. I still get these cards every year, and it's always the same except for one Valentine's Day a few years ago. I received a stuffed teddy bear with a big chocolate heart along with a card. Needless to say, I didn't eat the chocolate. I searched the bear, half convinced there'd be a hidden camera, and after that, I just started receiving regular cards again. In any case, as a child, it was sort of exciting and mysterious, like a secret admirer. Now, it's just unnerving. I've racked my brain for years trying to figure out who it could possibly be, and I've come up empty-handed. It still makes me uneasy, but if this person wanted to hurt me, I think they would have done it by now. I've never felt outwardly threatened by them, so I don't think there's really much I can do about it. The main thing I want to know is why. What's the point? And who? Honestly, I may never find out. Number 4. When I was in high school, I lived in a really small town in Texas. It was kind of a place where everyone was either related to each other or hated each other. I had no family there, but I did have a pretty blonde girlfriend and was pretty hated for that too. Nothing major, just petty harassment and occasional fights, but recently it had been escalating. So that's why on Valentine's Day, my girlfriend and I decided to skip the school dance and just stay in and watch a movie at her house while her parents were out. Just better to avoid trouble. We borrowed her dad's car and went into town. We stopped at the video store for a movie, then went to Dairy Queen for some ice cream and then headed home. Now, she lives out in the middle of the woods, along a lonely road with no streetlights. We're chatting, eating our blizzards, when all of a sudden a car comes up behind us. No big deal. But what was a big deal was when headlights flooded the interior of our car. I saw 2 hands in the back seat and a head coming up from the hatchback part of our car. As soon as the lights hit, the head and hands retracted back down. I slowly reached in my pocket and pulled out my pocket knife, as it was the only thing I had. My girlfriend saw me and asked what was wrong. Loudly, I said, "Nothing, I just have to stop at my friend's house real quick." I pulled over at the next house that came up and jumped out of the car, yelling at her to get out too. She jumped out of total confusion. I flipped the driver's seat forward and lunged into the back seat in full maniac mode. This guy popped up like a jack-in-the-box with empty hands waving, hey, what are y'all up to tonight?" It was some weird kid from our high school that we had literally never ever spoken to before. I yelled, "What are you doing in our car?" His reply was, "I thought you guys were going to the dance, so I was just hitching a ride." I have no idea what he was really trying to do when the lights caught him, but we ended up dropping him off at the dance, and that was the end of that. Number 3. I was working on a Saturday in Tokyo as a private tutor for people whose native language isn't English. One student I have regularly is a businessman in his late 40s. I normally dislike Japanese businessmen, but he's always very kind and seems genuinely respectable. One Saturday, we were in the middle of a lesson when he suddenly began asking questions about my coworker. I answered what I could about him, but I was a little confused, as I didn't think the student had ever met with him or had a lesson from my coworker. When I eventually asked why he was interested, he said, "Because he keeps walking by and talking to someone. I don't think it's a student because there aren't any other students in here right now. It's just a little hard to focus when he keeps talking to himself." But this Saturday was Valentine's Day, and my coworker had asked to not come in. So why was he here? Also, he doesn't have a significant other that I'm aware of, so why would he have needed the day off? Nothing like this has ever happened again, and honestly, I'm a bit creeped out, but curious. Number 2. About 14 years ago, I lived in a different house than I do now. Where I used to live is now the bad side of town, but it was never like that when I lived there, so it wasn't uncommon for parents to let their kids play outside by themselves. It was a nice summer day in Texas, but it was still pretty hot, so I decided I would go to the school playground with my dog. My house was literally right across from the school, but as I was walking my dog to the playground, I remember seeing a man on the sidewalk walking across the street from mine. The man was dressed in all black and wore what looked to be a heavy black trench coat, black combat boots with black sunglasses. He was just staring at me as I made my way across the street, but he didn't do anything, just stared. When I got to the park, I saw some of my friends and told them about the man, but when we went back to see him, he was gone. For the next week, that man was always staring at me as I took my walk to the park, but would disappear when I arrived. Now, if this happened today, things would have unfolded a bit differently, but I was a very naive girl when I was young. After about a week, it was same as usual, staring at me as I walked across the street. However, this time he stopped me and asked, "Can I pet your dog?" My dog was growling at this guy like I'd never seen before, so I shook my head no, unable to form words. Then I booked it back to my house with my dog. Once inside, I told my mom about what had happened. She then peeked through the blinds at this guy and he was staring right at us. After about 5 seconds though, he turned and just walked away. My mom called the police and filed a report about the guy, but we never saw him again. I assumed that the guy was trying to snatch me, and if my dog hadn't been there, who knows what may have happened. Number 1. The floor was strewn with construction paper, glue sticks, and glitter. In the center of this was Emma, her hands piled on jagged, misshapen hearts. "You should make a Valentine for Daddy," she said. "Daddy and I don't really do handmade Valentines cut out of construction paper," I responded. I'd had too much on my mind for stupid crafts. Plus, Jack was mad at me anyway. Before he left that morning, he snarled, "Kat, I'm supposed to get a call from a very important client. Don't nag me today." But my husband aside, where was Mr. Whiskers? I hope he didn't get out again. "Why not?" Emma said, her scissors cutting wildly into the paper. "It's more of a kid thing, honey." Her face grew red and she smeared glitter with newfound ferocity. "I'm not a kid. I'm 8 years old. 8. No, please don't have a tantrum." I rushed to pick up a piece of construction paper to help out, but I froze. Underneath it were several smaller pieces of paper. I turned them over and began to read. As expected, they were notes from my husband. He constantly left notes around the house, whether it was to warn us about a broken toilet seat or just tell us that he loved us. The handwriting was much sloppier than usual though, but it was still legible. Together they said, "Kat, I already got the call. I'll know if you put your phone down in the basement with mine. Tonight I want your body." I blushed and grinned and even suppressed a giggle. He'd been complaining recently how we were always glued to our phones and never really interacted with each other. And what a romantic idea to lock our phones away and have the night all to ourselves without any distractions. "Mom, what's that?" "Nothing," I said, stuffing the notes in my pocket. "I'm going to look for Mr. Whiskers, okay?" Later that night, when Jack finally climbed into bed, I curled up against him. "I've been looking forward to tonight," I said. He smiled at me. "Yeah, why is that?" I let my hair brush against his neck, saying, "I got your note." "My note?" he asked. "Yeah, the one you left me in the dining room." My fingers trailed up his leg, but he yanked away. "What are you talking about?" Annoyed, I stood up and picked up my jeans. I fished for the note. "This one," I said, throwing the crumpled pieces of paper onto the bed. He eyed me cautiously, then picked up the notes and frowned. "Kat, I didn't write this." "Well, who did then?" I said, my voice growling louder. "A ghost?" Shuffling the pieces in his hands, his eyes grew wide. His frown grew deeper. "I think you read them in reverse order." "So?" I asked. He then stepped forward. In the dim light, he was white as a sheet, hands shaking. He laid the pieces of paper on the nightstand and I walked over. My heart pounding, I read them slowly. "Tonight, I want your body in the basement with mine. Put your phone down. I'll know if you call. I already got the cat." "We need to call the police," he said, grabbing at his pocket. "Wait, where's my phone?" I backed away, staring at the floor. "Kat, where's my phone?" My heart pounded and I heard ringing in my ears. I put our phones in the basement. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos. But really quick before you leave the video, let us know in the comments what was the worst Valentine's Day you've ever had. We'll see you guys tomorrow.